Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to you. It's Representative Dunnington, Representative Echols. Good to have you both here. Let's start with, well, look at this. Have you seen this when you're driving around town? These big old billboards. Fort Worth Texans have invaded Oklahoma. They came north of the Red River. We did embargo that at one time. Let me ask you this, Representative Dunnington. Is this a PR stunt, or do they have a point?
Well, first of all, let me say Happy Mother's Day to my mom. And second of all, I'll say that there is a point. But the point is that we need to remember that we've taken the first step this year in raising teacher pay in Oklahoma. The first step was an important one because it helps us retain the teachers that we have. Now we need to take the second step to make sure that we're recruiting new teachers in the way that Texas is trying to recruit our teachers. We'd like to beat Texas in everything that we do, and this is just one more way where we can have that victory by taking the next step in raising teacher pay in Oklahoma so that we're competitive in the region and we're competitive in our own cities.
What do you think about this?
Well, first, I got to start off by using my old favorite Bear Bryant quote. Have you called your mama today? Because I sure wish I could call mine. So my mom's second Mother's Day without her, and my incredible wife, Jon Echols, who's home with the kids right now. I'm so grateful. I'll see you soon, and we'll go to church. So as to the billboard, you know, we raised teacher pay this year to the second in the region. We are only behind Texas. Texas has some structural issues that are different than the state of Oklahoma. They allow property tax for the purposes of teacher pay. They have far fewer school districts. We have to continue on this path to be more competitive. But there are some structural differences between us and the state of Texas, which in a capitalist environment, we've got to find a way to be more competitive on teacher pay.
This last session, we spent a lot of time talking about bureaucrats who are like a branch of government. And then this Office of Accountability pops up. The budget is in. Got some attention this week about the budget for that Office of Accountability. Is it going to work?
Well, the Office of Accountability, as you have statewide elected people running for statewide office in Republican circles have been talking about audits, the Oklahoma House of Representatives, through the Speaker and the Oklahoma Senate and the Pro Tem, have been doing it. We set up the Office of Accountability that is for the purpose of doing performance audits on state agencies, starting off with OMES, the Tax Commission, DOC. The goal of these audits are to step in and find ways to save taxpayer dollars. So when people start talking about audits, you've heard it over and over and over again. I hope they're mentioning we're doing it. We've started this process. An RFP is out. It's filled with both accountants and business people. Very proud of this legislation that started last year. We'll be moving forward.
Hats off to Trevor Brown from Oklahoma Watch, who did this story. The only problem I had with this was the assertion that a state audit is cheaper and more efficient than a private sector audit. That ain't true. But what are your thoughts about this?
Well, yeah, so the Office of Accountability is something we hear all the time, is that we have waste, fraud, and abuse in our system. And when you look at waste, fraud, and abuse over the last decade, 75% of our agencies have been cut by more than 40%. So I think the waste, fraud, and abuse has been cut out. What this agency is $2 million new appropriated dollars for political appointments. This has less to do with accountability and more to do with elected officials getting to hire their buddies to come in and work for the state government on our dime. This Office of Accountability isn't going to do what it set out to accomplish. It's nothing more than hiring new bureaucrats.
Wow, a disagreement. So we'll watch that, where that goes, because that's going to be a great story to follow. Let's talk about something that makes everybody warm and fuzzy, the Vision Fund. We've heard for years people saying, we need to save some of this money. When it's raining money, we need to save it. Is this what this is?
Yeah, a colleague of ours in the House, Representative Jon Montgomery from Lawton, has worked on this for the last couple of years. This is a great idea. The Vision Fund takes the 5% off the top from any monies that are made through gross production tax, and it puts it into a fund and helps us to build toward our future. This is the kind of thing that citizens want of their government. They want us to think about our future and not just our past. They want us to invest in ourselves, and the Vision Fund allows us to take a finite resource and put it into a fund that helps us build for the future. It's what other states have done. It's a smart piece of policy, and it's a bipartisan piece of policy.
And voters will have to say yes to this. This is a state question. So your thoughts on the bipartisan aspect of this?
Quick response on the accountability. There is no one on the Accountability Commission that is being paid. But as to the Vision Fund, it's only fitting that my friend Representative Dunnington talked about the Republican John Michael Montgomery. I want to give credit to the Democrat Senate author, former Senate leader John Sparks. The Vision Fund was a bipartisan piece of legislation. John Sparks and John Michael Montgomery worked on this bill for at least 3 years. It will take a small portion of the oil and gas tax, put it into a savings account. And I describe it as kind of like the state's 401k. It will then be used to stabilize the budget. What are we going to do next time there's a downturn in the economy? Because there will be. That's what the Vision Fund is for. Bipartisan efforts. Citizens are going to get to vote on it, and I hope they vote it in November.
Okay, let's talk about that. November. Dr. Gaddy was here yesterday. My last question to him yesterday was, is the state turning purple? He said yes, red and blue. So you guys, the respective parties, are going to have to reach these folks right here and try to get them to re-elect your people back into the state legislature, the governor's office, these secondary offices. What are the messages going to be?
Yeah, well, first off, I love Dr. Keith Gaddy. I had him when I was a political science major at OU. He was one of my favorite professors there, and he's a smart guy, knows what he's talking about in national and state politics. Oklahoma is turning purple now. Oklahoma is still a conservative state. And one of the things he said as I watched him on Saturday is the Republicans are going to maintain the House, they're going to maintain the Senate, and that's going to continue to happen. We have to govern in a fiscally conservative way, but more importantly, we have to govern. Republicans have to own the fact that they did govern this year. We did increase teacher pay. We did increase money into the classroom, not to where we want to be, and we did it in a wise and fiscally conservative manner, and Republicans need to own that, and I think people that are part of the solution will be sent back to office.
Great point. All right, so the Republicans have to own it. What are the Democrats going to own?
Well, I think Democrats are going to have a lot easier time in primaries and the general election because Democrats are going to go out and cast a vision. They're going to talk about what kind of future do we want here in Oklahoma that's better than the past that's been led by a supermajority of Republicans in the House and Senate. Republicans, on the other hand, are going to have a difficult time in primaries because my Republican friends that are trying to shoot up the middle and make sure that we're actually solving problems, they're the ones that are going to get beat up the most in their primaries by far-right candidates that are going to tell them that they need to cut taxes, that they need to run more social bills, that they need to do all these things that we're trying to move away from. Republicans are having a crisis in their party right now, and it's going to be difficult in primaries. I hope to see a lot more of my friends that are willing to solve problems and work up the middle with us in November.
I'll go see my mother today and ask her what she thinks about these messages. We'll do that day. I love you, Mother. I wouldn't be here without you. And we wouldn't be here without you. See us again at news9.com/revoltcounts. Follow me at Mitchell Talks.